The Falcon Heavy showed no sign of rust as it took off again on its fourth mission. It has been 3 years since it was last used, giving a display that left everyone awestruck. At this point, even NASA is shocked by SpaceX ingenuity. When will we see the Falcon Heavy fly next, and can we expect more SpaceX launches next year? We have all the details and save the best for last. The launch. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy, a towering three-pronged spacecraft that just happens to be the most powerful operational rocket in the world, went to space for the first time since 2019. The launch took place in the early hours of the day on the 1st of November from Kennedy Space Center, Florida. This launch marks SpaceX's 50th spaceflight this year, a feat that no other commercial aerospace company or NASA has achieved. The vehicle was used for the highly classified USSF-44 mission for the U.S. Space Force in its Falcon Heavy's first operational national security mission. The most recent mission that happened in 2019 was the Space Test Program 2, where the rocket carried experimental satellites for the Pentagon, and the success of the mission got Falcon Heavy certified for the National Security Space Launch Program. Its first 3 missions were all performed perfectly, with little issues on the launch pad and during liftoff. The USSF-4 mission was originally scheduled to happen more than 2 years ago, but there were several payload issues that kept pushing the timeline on the mission, and the Falcon Heavy was kept waiting since there was no other mission that required its capabilities. Among the payload carried during the mission were 2 space vehicles, including the Shepard demonstration mission and Long Duration Propulsion Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle, or LDPE-2 for short. LDPE-2 will deploy satellites to enhance different technologies like communication and space weather sensing. The second vehicle will test new vehicles that will expedite risk reduction efforts and improve proximity operations and safe rendezvous. The U.S. Space Force only allowed SpaceX to stream 9 minutes of the launch, but it was more than enough for everyone eager to see the Falcon Heavy in action once again. But before the launch took place, a representative of SpaceX announced that there would be a double sonic boom that will occur as the boosters land on Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 2. Over the course of 9 minutes, the Falcon twin boosters both flying for the first time, helping send the rocket into space before separation from the upper stage, center core, and payload to boost back towards the landing pads in Florida. Less than 8 minutes after liftoff, the twin boosters touched down seconds apart. The expendable core booster continued burning for an additional 90 seconds before it was separated from the upper stage and returned at a speed of 4 kilometers per second. SpaceX didn't have any plans for recovering it like the previous 2, and it ran out of fuel on its way back and splashed into the ocean where it was recovered. Those who were present for the launch were looking at a 230 feet tall rocket that packs an impressive 27 Merlin engines capable of producing 5 million pounds of thrust. That is the equivalent of 18 Boeing 747s. As the most powerful rocket in the world today by a factor of 2, Falcon Heavy has a payload capacity of 64 metric tons, more than twice the payload of the closest operational vehicle, Delta V Heavy. For context, the Falcon Heavy can carry a Boeing 737 airliner with all its passengers, luggages, and fuel to space. Geosynchronous launch. USSF-44 is SpaceX's first geosynchronous launch. This means that the Falcon Heavy delivered the military's payload to a circular geosynchronous orbit 22,400 miles above Earth's surface. For those not in the know, geosynchronous means that the spacecraft's orbital velocity matches the rotation velocity of Earth at that altitude. It is a popular location for Earth observation and communication satellites that want to observe the same region at the same time. On the direct-to-geo launch, the Falcon Heavy did all the work. After reaching a parking orbit in low Earth orbit, the upper stage of the rocket may have performed a second burn to reach the desired orbit. It will keep going for 5 to 6 hours while conducting a complex ballet of thermal management and tank pressure maintenance to prevent all of its cryogenic liquid oxygen, or LOX, from boiling into gas, and its refined kerosene from freezing into an unusable slush. The Falcon Heavy upper stage must also survive Earth's radiation belts before it reaches a circular geosynchronous orbit and deploys the payload. This could take up to an hour, and once completed, the upper stage doesn't return to Earth, but completes at least 2 more burns to move itself to its final destination, a few hundred kilometers away from the geosynchronous orbit. Next flight. So when next will we see the Falcon Heavy rocket? The next launch date is largely undecided for now, but it may be happening soon to the joy of space fans. The next mission may launch as soon as December. The Falcon Heavy could either take on another military satellite on behalf of Space Force or launch a communication satellite for Viasat to begin the first of 3 high-bandwidth communication launches. In 2018, Viasat booked a SpaceX Falcon Heavy to launch a large telecom satellite between 2020 and 2022. This is the second time Viasat will attempt to use Falcon Heavy for its satellite launches, having switched its Viasat 2 satellite to Ariane 5 from European launch provider Arianespace in 2016 due to delays with Falcon Heavy's development. Viasat and SpaceX also have a dispute over Starlink's Rural Digital Opportunity Fund award, as the company claimed that Starlink didn't meet the requirements. SpaceX, on the other hand, gave a passionate response to what it called a misguided campaign for Viasat to insert itself in the commission staff's review. SpaceX argued that Viasat didn't have a sincere complaint, and all it was trying to do was prevent any competition at all costs to its legacy technology. But all is now water under the bridge, as SpaceX prepares to undergo its next mission for their rival. On November 8th, the company released a statement that it won't be ready to launch with SpaceX this year. During the company's financial results call, Viasat CEO Mark Dangberg said that the company is working together with SpaceX to set a deadline for the launch in the earliest part of the quarter in 2022. However, this will depend on U.S. high-priority missions that will also be using the Falcon Heavy. Now that Viasat isn't launching in December as many hoped, a classified payload for Space Force is expected to be taken to space as early as January 2023. Soon after the November 1st launch, the Space Systems Command confirmed that Falcon Heavy's next launch will happen in 2023. The military confirmed that the mission USSF-67 would reuse 2 of the boosters that launched USSF-44. 3 weeks after the launch, the U.S. Space Force is still confident that Falcon Heavy will be ready in January or February next year. Assuming that the consistent schedule is intentional and not due to lack of communication with SpaceX, then this is good news. It shows that SpaceX was able to recover the used rockets, thoroughly inspect each booster, and fix any damage with little to no issues. If any problem had been discovered with the boosters after the most recent mission, USSF-67 would certainly be delayed. It also shows that the performance and usability of Falcon Heavy hasn't changed much since it was locked away 40 months ago, and the technology behind it can be improved upon to make a more reusable rocket. The powerful launch of the Falcon Heavy was a beauty to behold, and seeing the launch made people more excited for the first Starship launch. NASA's December timeline for the first orbital launch has not changed, and even though the Falcon Heavy will not be in action again this year, space lovers still have something to anticipate. It is going to be a brief mission that will happen from Starbase Boca Chica facility, and SpaceX is already preparing to complete its final tests before liftoff. All 33 engines of the Starship must undergo a simultaneous bench burn, and this will be the first time all engines will be ignited at the same time. And the changes of refueling the rocket will also be tested. This is going to be a huge milestone not just for SpaceX, but for the aerospace industry as a whole, and it's fair to say that everyone is waiting to see what the Starship is capable of. If it goes well, we can expect to see more of both Falcon Heavy and Starship. Do you want to see the Falcon Heavy fly again in January? Write yes or no in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications turned on, and in case you want to watch more fascinating videos, click the video on the screen now.